Chester.
Good.
I seriously thought you were just gonna.
No. No. I'm off.
Whoa.
Whoops.
Is Lars still missing in action?
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know.
Laura's coming.
Well, we're gonna
She's
start.
on the way.
She'll just walk right in. You guys can
When we're finished.
applaud her. Yeah, she'll show up at 5-2.
Hi, everybody.
Apparently, there's a few Friday the 13th fans here at FRIGHTMARE in the
Oh,
Falls.
wow. Well, we're very blessed. We're very lucky.
Well,
Thank
we got
you.
a couple of.
13 is a lucky number, I guess.
We got 3 living legends here. We got
Aw.
the original first Jason, Mr. Ari Lehman.
Yeah, right there.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
We got a guy who played a dead guy for a very long time. But he was also a real dirtbag psychologist in Friday the 13th Part 7.
And his nickname was?
John Kiser?
Bad News Cruz.
Dr. Cruz. Yeah.
And we got a man that killed a whole shit ton of people. We got Mr. Kane Hodder.
There she is.
Oh, everybody.
And
Tina.
Hey, thank you.
wait, announce it.
That was almost perfect. I said Tina.
Lar Park Lincoln.
There you go.
I want you to host this thing. Why do I gotta do all the work?
Let's hear it for Lar Park Lincoln. There you go.
Okay, so since you're first, Jason Ari, you're gonna kick things off.
Okay.
Very small part
1, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
in the ultimate thing.
Yeah,
But it
true,
was
true.
one of the most famous and most scariest scenes. I have a
Yeah,
memory of the
well,
first
thank
time I saw Friday the 13th. How badly it scared me when you jumped out of the water. My
Yeah.
friend's dad jumped out of his reclining seat chair. It scared him so
Thank
badly.
you.
I'm not making it up. So just take us
too.
back to that moment in time.
I mean, you might look at it this way. For the sheer number of seconds that I was on the screen,
3?
which then if you think of how many people I scared in those 3 seconds, perhaps that shows you the sheer effectiveness of little Jason's scaring ability. Okay, so I may have scared more in a shorter time period, but let's face it, I mean, Jason has how many, was it 46 kill count? But
I'm pretty sure it's
What?
more than 46. 46 in one movie, maybe.
That's like way.
But
I have
50 something, but anyway, somebody can look it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But little Jason's kill count is 0 because I didn't actually effectively kill anyone. If you remember, she wakes up in the hospital the next day.
Was it a dream or was it not? And is it? Or
What
is
is
it
Jason's kill count? Someone look it up, please.
Who knows?
181.
Oh, wow. Figured it out.
What about all those? Like, didn't he kill like an
181?
entire space station? or
140.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, those don't count.
Pardon me.
Oh,
The
okay.
the only kills,
On-screen kills.
no, not just on-screen kills, but the hands-on kills is the
Oh.
ones I count.
Okay.
You know, if you're shooting somebody with an automatic weapon, doesn't count.
Okay.
One
Well, anyway.
time kills, I did 55, I believe, as Jason, 65 as Victor.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I killed no one.
There had
Well,
Little Jason was kind of just, it was like a water safety message, you know? Always use the buddy system when you can. But to be that age and to be on the set of Friday the 13th, I had more fun on the set of Friday the 13th than I think anybody ever had on the set of a movie. It was summertime, I was a kid, it was a blast, and I got to grab this pretty lady and drag her in the water, so that's a good summer if you ask me.
is it or is it not true that you were Tom Savini's weed supplier during that time?
Oh, well, not exactly, but I certainly was well supplied.
You had prosthetics,
Yes, sir.
and were you underwater? I don't remember
Yes.
if you actually physically came out of the water.
Yes.
So,
All my scenes are in the water, Kane, yes.
no, yes, I know that, but if you were underwater and came out.
Oh, yes,
Or
of
you were
course.
just hidden and came
Well,
out.
in the first scene, I'm out of the water and I go in, and in the second scene, I'm in the water and I come out.
Very nice, Ari. Very
that's
nice.
my oeuvre.
Did you have any issues with the prosthetics and the water?
Oh no. Well, we had to get it done quickly because there's no CGI. It was Tom Savini did the prosthetic work, and yeah, we couldn't stay underwater too long or it would start to wrinkle and buckle and look strange. So we had
And
to do.
absorb.
And you-
Yep.
That's the issue.
Oh
I
yeah,
had.
and it started. Actually, it had some buoyancy. The head. So when I was down underwater, when I was underwater, I just grabbed the side of the boat. It just lifted me right out. No, but
Yeah, I mean the famous thing is she's out in the middle of the water. So when they shoot that, it looks like I'm in deep water and I just jettison. But no, we're of course movie magic.
4 feet of water.
We were in
Right.
like 4
Me.
feet of water.
Was there a safety diver there? I mean, safety person?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, nobody on the set had any idea what was going on except me and Sean. Sean said to me, "You're not going to be able to hear me say action when you're underwater. So wait for the bubbles to clear, and that's action."
That's action.
So he whispers in my ear, "The cameras are rolling. Go out and do it." He didn't tell anyone else the cameras were rolling.
That is not
So
safe.
even when I came jumping out, Tom wasn't even ready with the boat, and Adrian definitely wasn't ready because she grabbed my hands and threw them off. So the first take was sandwiched in between the second take. So, I'm coming out like this, and then you see the close up. That was actual fear. My hand in her chest, and she just said, "No, I'm not having this." She's like, she literally said shit and fell out the front of the boat. Pardon me, but yeah. So there you go. It was real fear, but yet I didn't kill her.
She woke up safe and sound, or was it a dream, or was it? Well, it was, because she shows up in part 2, I guess. Okay, so Kane, obviously you have become the face of Jason in the modern era, but you've actually been involved in a lot of pretty big horror franchises, perhaps less well-known for your roles there, but you did get to do some work in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, did you not?
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, maybe you had some kind of cool behind-the-story scenes on that one.
Well, I stunt coordinated the movie and stunt doubled R.A. For a number of scenes. Not that he wasn't capable, but anytime that Leatherface had a chainsaw with a chain on it running, they wisely said that it should be a stunt person, because if somebody gets hurt by a stunt person with a live weapon, you've done what you could. If an actor does it, hurts someone, then you're in deep shit because you should have had a stunt person. At least if you go to the lengths of trying to be safe and something happens, then you're not as culpable. So I did a lot of scenes as Leatherface, and yes, as she's about to ask me, I did have to wear a fat pad to double RA. Wish he was here. There's a couple of pictures that have surfaced recently of me as Leatherface without the mask on.
Oh, no.
And it looks pretty funny because I look so bulbous.
I want to find those pictures.
And so, Lar, you got to play, I guess, kind of one of the most exciting characters in the whole franchise, right? You're the only one that had superpowers, from what I recall.
Yes.
Of the series. What are some cool stories about Part 7 in terms of the special effects and some of the crazy stunts and crazy kind of kills that you were a part of?
Well, the fun part, of course, is it wasn't CGI, right?
Yeah,
So
practical.
I had Kane in charge of me, and you'll never feel safer than with this stunt guy. So in the basement scene, he completely covered me in fire retardant because Kane came over and said, "Laura, fire's real, so we're gonna cover you." I'm like, "Oh yeah, real fire." So that was pretty exciting. And actually, I got to do one little stunt. I fell through the basement into the pad. It was like really this far, but I was excited, and so that was fun.
And the scene that I liked that is just between her and I is when I'm coming out of the house and just before the roof drops.
Yeah.
It was all a practical, real roof. They did the middle section at a balsa, but that didn't mean shit because it was all attached to real wood on either side, so it made it just as firm, because they thought, oh God, if that hits him, he's gonna punch through. So they're like, as soon as it hits you, just fall down like it really hit you hard.
Are you talking on the outside?
Yes.
Because that was the stunt woman. They didn't let me stand in front of the house out there.
That's right.
I'm like, I could stand here. I've been 2
That's
feet from
right.
fire the whole time, and
And
then I didn't get to stand
The
500 feet
the
away.
Funny thing is, Laura would not have reacted the way the stunt girl did.
No.
If you watch, the camera's behind Tina,
Right.
and the roof comes down on my head, and she didn't expect it to be as
And
violent as it was,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Oh!"
I
You
wouldn't
see
have
her
done that.
flinch, like, "Holy shit, that hit him hard!"
Like, no.
And it drilled me so.
Yeah, and it
was
made
so
me
hard.
so mad because I
Yeah.
wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That's one of my
Flinched.
favorite scenes in the entire franchise.
Oh, really?
I love it where you're psychically throwing
That's
stuff
my
at-
favorite. The nails and the
Yeah,
gasoline,
all
those
that
are my
stuff,
favorite.
then you
And the
turn and look at her,
lines.
That look when she,
Yeah.
she blows the mask off your face.
That was cool.
That
That
is
was cool.
awesome.
That was fun.
I love that. I love that part.
Now let me ask you something. I don't think I've ever asked you this. When you were cast,
Yeah.
were you as excited as, I mean, like for me, I was going to be the character that everybody knew.
Yeah.
But because it was a Friday movie, were you really excited because of that, or just that it was a challenging
I
role?
was, well, first I didn't know because I was reading for Birthday Bash, right?
Oh, right.
And then when we figured it out, I was Friday fan, so I was over the moon, hysterically happy, and then terrified because of the comparison to Carrie and going in as the one against you that way. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
It was great. I was thrilled.
The working title of the movie was Birthday Bash.
Yeah.
Wow.
To,
That's what the
so
script
people
said.
would know when we went in and
Yeah,
reading
and the
it.
character in the script that was killing everyone was Ethan. If you
That's
remember.
right. It was Ethan. That's right. It
Wasn't
was
Jason,
Ethan.
so that
Yeah.
nobody could look at it and say, "Oh, this is a
But
Friday movie."
people figured it out. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, Ethan is a lot less threatening than Jason.
we did figure it out.
Sounds like a
I think even Birthday Bash is what was written on my final contract. I think that's on the actual contract
Oh,
that,
wow.
that I signed for the film, even though we knew what it was.
Very cool.
And
I
the
need to
working
look that
title
up.
for Part 8 the next year was Ashes to Ashes.
from David Bowie's song, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
not
David
sure,
Bowie
but-
song. Yeah.
Huh.
Whoa.
A number of them were named after David Bowie songs.
I
did
didn't know that.
That's a new one on me. But and John, like, I mean, you're one of those guys. Like, yeah, you're pretty famous for Weekend at Bernie's, but you're one of those guys that's been in a ton of movies. You've got a ginormous resume. So,
yeah.
what was your reaction to getting cast in this film? Like, oh, I'm going to be in Part 7 of Friday the 13th.
Is there a John in here?
It's Terry.
Terry? John. I've been doing this for 3 hours straight. guys.
It's Terry John.
I don't care. When I was first cast in the thing, the director said that he wanted me for this part, and I said, well, what is it? And he said, well, I said, well, you know, Jason's the bad guy. You know, everybody's good, and he goes, no, he says, this is the character. You're going to be bad too. And I said, really? Okay, this is good, okay. And that's how that part came about, you know, saying, oh, well, I can be a bad guy.
Can be
You
bad
know,
guy.
it's not just Jason. It's
I think there was
Right.
another term that fans call your character.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
Bad
a bad
news
guy.
Cruise.
No.
Something uglier.
You weren't really a bad guy. You were kind
Yes,
of
he
an
was.
asshole.
He was a very bad guy trying to ruin a very young girl's mind. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. We have Kane, who's, you know, scary and he's a big guy and stuff like this, and got on the script, on the set and stuff like this. And he came up to me and he said, "Now, is there anything I can do for you, Terry? Is there, you know, I'll be glad to help. I mean, if you want to do something different or something like this." That's called class in our business. When somebody helps me, but when he was talking like that, he was kind of whispering and saying, I mean, if anything you, I said, I'm going to get hurt.
It's gonna hurt.
I feel this is going to hurt somehow. But this is a wonderful thing I think about our business. Everybody helps each other out, and I'll always remember that from saying, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And that's called unselfishness as a craftsman, and that's the way we work through the film, and because we all love the craft itself, and so let's do the work.
And we
Let's
don't
the
do it
work.
alone. None of
No,
us.
we
We don't
don't.
do any of it alone.
No,
You know.
no.
And so, Terry,
You can call me
the
John.
Maybe you were thinking of Beagler.
Come on, please tell me it's your middle name or something.
He did call him Bernie anyway.
But Part 7 is kind of known for the thing it's famous for is that, of course, it was this over-the-top gore film that came out extremely not over-the-top or gory. Your death scene in particular, I understand, was particularly gory with the buzzsaw. Do you remember filming that? Or
We talked about that, Kane and I. And I said, you know, where did this stuff get cut? And I mean, Bad News Crews died bad. And they had to cut it because it was, and I'd never seen the footage or anything like that. And I'm going to have the opportunity from Kane to be able to see this thing for the first time. But that's the reason they cut it. They said it was too gory. And with all these other films coming out now, I mean, they would put that back in and it would probably be a big hit now. You know, because it'd be more acceptable now to see this this thing.
Yeah, when the blade goes into you, you just see a slight cut and it cuts away from it. But when you see the real footage, the blade goes into the dummy and intestines come flying out, all kinds of really good stuff. Every kill was completely cut in the movie, every single one.
Hey, are there any questions in the audience? Oh, there's a few right here.
Oh, how nice.
Right off of that, is there any chance of an extended cut coming out?
Not from the knowledge I've received about the footage, because you know when something is filmed in post-production, it goes into color correction, and there's a time code on it. So the footage I have access to still has the time code. It's really shitty quality because they didn't bother to color correct it because it wasn't going to be in the film. So it's really terrible quality, so I can't imagine they'd ever be able to use it. Yeah.
What was it like working with Tom Savini?
Tom Savini?
Tom Savini.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a blast. Yeah. When I was 14, I got to work in his studio. Sean Cunningham was based out of Westport, Connecticut, so they had a studio in Weston, Connecticut. And there he had like all these, you know, explosive devices and severed limbs and decapitated heads and pet chinchillas, and it was just a blast. You know, it was a lot of fun. Tom Savini definitely made it a lot of fun for me. Absolutely.
How did you, Ari, sort of come back into Friday the 13th, so to speak? Like, you were off doing music, I understand, and you're fairly...
Yeah, well, for a while I actually got to work for Tough Gong Records and Interscope Records, Jimmy Iovine, and Tough Gong is Bob Marley's label, because I was playing world music, of all things, reggae and world music, back when that was popular. But what happened was, I was in Chicago, and one day, a fan, actually his name is Eric Lee Nash, he does t-shirts and stuff.
Eric.
Yeah, Eric. So he wrote to me and said, "Did you sign this photo?" And I was like, "What? Why would I sign?" He's like, "Aren't you Ari Lehman, the first Jason?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I got this for $50 on eBay. Somebody was out there forging my..."
Oh, wow.
So I got to the bottom of that, and then actually got that vendor who claimed that it was third party, this, that, to return some of the money and stuff. But then, you know, that keyed me into the opportunities there. And then the first show I ever did was at the Meadowlands, and I got there, and they said, "Oh yeah, just go in that room." And Betsy Palmer was across the way, and I had never met her before. And this will give you insight to Betsy. She's there and I'm there and we're getting ready for the fans. So I just walk over, as is my way, and I just go, "Hi, Mom." and Betsy goes, "Well, hello." And she gives me this huge hug. And then she puts her hands on my shoulders and then she goes, "So who the fuck are you?" And then when I told her, she gave me an even bigger hug. We were friends for a long time.
That's fantastic. It's good. Oh yeah.
Yeah, question right here.
This is so cool that the first station and the best station and
Yeah,
Barney
the
is
best.
here.
Wow.
Barney,
Yeah.
sorry.
Call me John.
It's a new station.
This is for you, Kane.
What?
This question is for you.
Okay.
How come you worked on the Devil's Rejects, but you were not in it? Because you would make a great character.
Well, I mean,
That's a pretty good question.
Yeah.
And it's
That's-
so well put.
yeah.
Way to go, Ramsey.
As you know, probably, I was the stunt coordinator on
Yeah.
The Devil's Rejects with Rob Zombie and all them. And I was on screen one time at the end where the cops are coming in with the gas masks. I'm one of those guys,
Oh.
just to
Okay.
do it for the hell of it. But I was mainly there for the stunts. And I think that personally, I didn't think Rob wanted me to play a character because he didn't want, and I understand it too, he didn't want the audience to be taken away from his characters because, wait a minute, that's Kane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of takes him out of the film. So I wasn't offended or anything. I just kind of understood it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, cool.
Good question.
Yeah, good job.
And by the way, thank you for saying I'm the best Jason.
The first and the best.
And I don't think that, like you said, I don't think he's the worst Jason. Is that what you said?
No idea.
You said worst Jason. didn't you? Oh, first. Oh, I got
There
you.
may be
I got
bigger,
you.
there may be better, but my firstiness cannot be challenged. I'm the firstiest.
Firstiest.
But I like you too.
I like you too, Ramsey. Thank you.
Because
Good
I like
question.
to pronounce it and I like to
Oh, that's the universal sign for use
What,
the buddy
this?
system.
We love you. Is that what it is? Drowning scene?
Thank you for the
There's
question,
a
John.
question
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah,
You-
good job, John.
Always use the buddy.
I actually
Buddies.
just wanted to know from Kane how fun it was to do a ghost hunt with Zach Bagans.
Oh,
That was like one of my favorite episodes.
was it? Yeah, I mean, talking about doing an episode of Ghost Adventures, RA and I and my co-founder Rick McCullum did an episode, and then, you know, he comes off kind of on the show as kind of being a douchebag a little bit, you know, kind of ridiculous, but he's not like that. And I think it's unfortunate that somehow he gets that image because he's actually a cool guy. And, you know, I'm very careful to not exaggerate something if you're paranormal, investigating. Everybody wants to have a story, so they exaggerate things even not without realizing it. So I am kind of a, what I say, open-minded skeptic about ghost hunting. So it's, you know, most of the stuff I ever hear, you know, you hear, like, even on our episode, I think there was some EVPs that they were, you know, and they say, listen to this, and they go, it said, get out or die. You hear that? No, I didn't fucking hear that at all. They manufacture stuff in their own minds without even knowing it, I think. The EVPs are the ones that piss me off the most, really. It never sounds like anything.
I'm with you on
Like
that.
when they're playing a Led Zeppelin record backwards or something.
Someone fell down the stairs.
Yeah, question right here.
So Kane, not a question, but I just want to say you did a great job portraying a Canadian in Shed of the Dead.
A movie called Shed of the Dead that we
Okay.
shot in England. And it's about, you know, unless you've been to England, you don't know what allotments are, where people get a little section of land in a area that has 100 of them, and each person gets their own little piece of land to farm.
Okay.
And, you know, have a garden and stuff. And this was called Shed of the Dead, and I had problems with my neighbors in the allotments.
Okay.
And they were like, we'd like you to be, you know, English if you can. And I tried that accent and didn't do worth a shit. So they said, okay, you're Canadian. You sound American, but we don't want you to be American, so you're Canadian. I was flying the Canadian flag on my plot, and yeah,
There you go.
That's a great
cool.
story. Great story.
Another question from here.
What was it like playing in your own movie, the BTK movie?
Oh, BTK?
BTK.
Yeah. Yeah, I played him. A guy named Dennis Rader was a real serial killer, and played him in a movie simply titled BTK. And that was crazy because, you know, it's one thing to play a fictional character that you can do whatever you want with the character. But when you're playing someone that existed, I think you should try to keep it a little bit true to the real story, with maybe adding a little bit of your own flavor. But it's pretty strange to play someone that existed and did so many horrible things. And but it was from an acting standpoint, it was a very great, challenging role because I had to be fun and likable at times, and then murderously violent. You know, in the next scene. So, from an acting standpoint, it was a lot of fun.
All right, I got a question for you. I got a question for you, Kane. So the documentary To Hell and Back. When I saw that, that documentary took me by surprise because I thought I was sitting down to watch a documentary on your career playing Jason, and actually that was kind of like not really the largest part of the documentary. And I was surprised to hear a lot of your stories about how you got those burns on your arm. I always thought you got it from a stunt.
Not just an arm, my whole upper body.
Yeah, and also bullying, which has become a very serious topic. It's always been a serious topic, but I think it's more serious today than it has been before. What was it kind of just why did the documentary go in that direction? Was it sort of cathartic to talk about it right now, or how did it kind of take that form?
I think that's exactly what it was. I didn't really anticipate talking about everything, but Derek Dennis Herbert, who did the documentary, was such an easy person to talk to about my life that I started, going into things that were a little personal and not so fun, and seemed like I was getting a really good response from the crew from talking about that stuff. And I thought, what I'll do is I'll tell my entire story, and then we'll watch a version of the documentary and see if I like the fact that I'm talking about that stuff. Because you play a character that's a badass, and you wonder if you should talk about things that are just the opposite of that. And of course now, pretty much without fail, that's what the response I get the most response from is the personal stuff. The career stuff is fun, but when someone has lived through an issue like some of the things I've been through, and they can say, this guy made it, so that it's pretty rewarding. I had a woman come up to me in Germany, and she's become a friend, but she has a tattoo on her entire thigh, on the front of her thigh, of my smiling face. This big, smiling.
Smiling.
There's not many pictures of me smiling. And, I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to give you shit for this. My smiling face on your leg, and just when I'm getting ready to give her a good-natured ribbing about it, she tells me she watched a documentary and it stopped her from committing suicide.
Whoa.
So I was like, oh, okay, so I can't make fun of that now.
Nope.
But she told me that through tears, so how do you not appreciate when something like that has happened, It's very powerful, and, what are you laughing at? You watching something on your phone? Oh.
We have a question over here. So yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Becca Rose, and I worked on crew for a project that's currently being shot, 13 Fanboy. And if you really want to tap in on some emotional performance and personal performance of Kane Hodder, you're going to want to see 13 Fanboy. Your performance was so endearing. The crew was crying. Every one of us on set that day when you performed, Kane, were in tears because we could relate. And so you are right. People want to know more of your personal perseverance in this industry. So
Very
be
nice.
looking
Thank
for
you,
13
yeah.
Fanboy guys.
That was fun because, as you know, I did the scene as it was scripted first, and then asked if I could do one more take and just go crazy with it.
okay.
And I ad-libbed a bunch of shit about my dad and stuff because he died way too young and never got to.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was. So be sure to look out for 13 Fanboy.
Very nice, very
You got a
nice.
question? Yep.
All right.
Hey.
So we're going to completely go away from the sentimental thing.
All right.
Okay.
Sentiments of things.
And now
I'm gonna
for
kill you after
something-
this.
No, we'll kill you.
But that's fine, you'll enjoy it.
We know of obviously being the face of Jason, one of horror icon's biggest people. You've also stunted for Leatherface, so that gives you 2 credits under the belt. But there is a third uncredited horror icon that you have played.
Technically, yes.
Did it feel dirty putting on the glove?
No. Referring to Freddy's glove and Jason Goes to Hell, that was my hand in the Freddy glove grabbing the mask. And as soon as I read that in the script, I was like, okay, nobody's doing this shot except me. Period. Makeup effects guys all wanted to do it. It was K&B, it was Nicotero and all them. They all wanted to do it, and I said,
wanted to
nope,
do it. No.
that's me. I'm doing it. And I kept the
good.
glove and kept the mask and everything.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I did feel slightly pedophile-ish because I will never let Robert forget that Freddy was a pedophile. I remind him all the time. Jason never did anything shitty to a kid. Freddy, on the other hand, well.
That's good.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
So, Lara, you had mentioned that you were like Friday fangirl. What about House 2? Were you a fan of the original? Because the House, I was a big
Loved
fan
it.
of House growing up.
I loved House 1. I was so excited to get House 2 and play a mean kind of bitchy character. And Kane was in House 2, so we found out we were in that together. So it was a really fun time and very strange show to make. A lot of crazy things happening.
And did you get to meet John Ratzenberger?
I did briefly, yes. I worked with Bill Maher more, and that was fun.
Cool.
And the first House movie had Norm
Yeah,
from
had Norm.
Cheers.
Norm from Cheers.
Then
Yeah.
we had Cliff.
They had
Right.
Cliff Clavin.
And the second one, I happened to do all the House movies as
Oh, cool.
stunt coordinator, all 4 of them really, even though the third one was called The Horror Show. And
Nice.
that's the one that Lance just retold the story. Sorry if you've heard this before, but I think it's kind of funny that Lance Henriksen would talk about. He said, "Yeah, I did a movie with Kane called The Horror Show," and he says, "I did a scene with Kane, and the entire time he was looking me right in the eyes." And the people say, okay, so why is that a big deal? And then he finishes with, well, Kane was on fire at the time. Which I was doubling Brian James. I was on fire, and I was mimicking what Brian had done, and I'm looking at Lance
Okay.
like this, right in his eyes, and I'm on fire. So.
I think you're going to tell me your pants were down or something like that.
You wish.
Me?
Yes, you.
Ari, how did you hook up with Ice Nine Kills? Ice Nine Kills. How did
Oh,
you-
yeah.
I wasn't
Oh.
sure where that was going.
Thank you for asking that, Ramsey. Yeah, as you all know, I have a band called First Jason, and we've put out 4 records. Our new one's called Lord of the Lake. Ice Nine Kills is a great band that does also horror metal music. This great band asked me to sing on their acoustic version of a song called Thank God It's Friday that released 2 days ago. And it's getting a lot of attention.
Nice.
It's on Spotify. But Ice Nine Kills, Ramsey, they, our paths crossed, while we were touring, and they heard of me and I heard of them. And they just called me up out of the blue and said, hey, would you sing on this track? And so we jumped over to Uptown Recording in Chicago. I recorded my part and sent it over, and boom. But Spencer Charnas, who's the lead singer, is amazingly talented, and it's a great song, so definitely check it out. And thanks for asking about that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Appreciate
Very
you.
nice.
And again, Terry. It's gonna drive me insane if I don't ask this question. But what was it like? What was your reaction to the script for Weekend at Bernie's when you found out? Oh, because it's got to be challenging to play that guy, right?
Imagine.
But you weren't dead at the beginning.
Wasn't dead at the beginning and stuff like this.
Now,
Oh, you had
when we get to part 2, weren't you dead the entire film?
I was.
Yeah,
I was.
yeah.
I was.
You didn't come back to life.
I think
amazing.
the best story I think with Weekend at Bernie's was they have what they call dailies, and those are what you shot the day before, and they show you the footage. And the first time that I was playing dead on screen, I went to the dailies the next day and I looked at it and I said, "Ooh," I said, "He's dead." I mean, he's just dead. It's not funny dead. It's just dead. And I went back to my room and thought about this and thought about this. And I said, no, he has to be funny dead. How can you be funny dead? What the hell is that? I'm in my room. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm singing. I'm looking in the mirror and what can I, thing like this. And I knew that whatever I came up with, I would have to hold for 2 minutes. When you're shooting. But that's where the Bernie smirk came from. I'm looking in the mirror and I'm going, huh? And I go, and I saw that and I said, oh, I think that. I said, can I hold it? And I'm looking at this thing, and I tried it the next day. And we all know that if you can get a crew laughing, these guys, they've seen it all. They've seen it all. Ah, here comes another actor.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put up with this thing. But all of a sudden, everybody was laughing, and I said, it works. And all of a sudden, it was funny dead instead of dead. And I think that was one of the things that really turned the whole character in the movie around to have the fun that you all had
Absolutely.
with the thing.
Yeah.
And
So
did you, in the second movie, I swear, your expression changed a little bit.
he was older. It just fell down a little.
Not
Rigor mortis.
It said it a little bit.
your expression was slightly different as the movie progressed through the second one.
I think it was, and they had people, I found out that they had people, young kids, they were watching the movie over and over and over again to see if they could see Bernie move. In other words, breathe. Okay,
wow.
breathe there, I could see it, something like that. No, we had fun. The whole idea of something like that when you have comedy, how can you make people laugh, and it wasn't shtick, it was real. Everything came out of realness. And I think the whole idea of the three of us getting together and saying, let's try to break up each other. No matter what we do, let's try to break up each other. And I think what that did, it kept it alive and real. And when you see real and not shtick comedy, as we've talked about, real comedy, you can see it 9 times and it's funnier the 9th time than it is the first time. Like slipping on a banana. You slip on a banana, but if you see it the 3rd time, you say, oh, he's gonna get that, and boom, it's funnier. And so that's how we tried to do our comedy in that movie to make it fun, is to keep it alive by trying to look like we're doing it for the first time every time, and we kind of were, because we kept breaking up each other.
I wish they had done outtakes at the end of the film.
Oh my.
Where whatever times you made each other laugh.
I wish so too.
I do too,
would've been
Kane, because
fun.
there were some dandies.
I bet.
Okay, so unfortunately we are getting to the end. But luckily for you, we're going to take one more question. Oh, who's it going to be? It's going to be you. You, yes.
I had 2 quick questions.
Is that Uber?
It is.
Uh-huh. I thought so.
Best version of Jason. Which actually, I had 2 quick questions. One was there ever a planned direct sequel to Jason X that was supposed to take place in the future?
Not that I know of. I never heard anything like that. And, each of the films I did were so different from the end of the previous one to the next one. I think I always heard that they wanted to maybe do one, but I don't think there was any real plan.
Okay. My other question is for Ari. I watched on one of the DVDs, probably for the original movie, there was an extra where you said you were getting psyched up to play Jason for the very first time.
Mhm.
And then Kevin Bacon came along and
Yeah.
basically made fun of you at that point.
No, he didn't make fun of me. He had gone to take a piss in the woods. And
I was a very serious little child, and I was staring deep into the dark water of Crystal Lake. You know, I was kind of weird, and so
Or high.
yeah, both. And so he walks by, and he's nice enough to say, "Hey, Ari, what you doing?" And I go, "I'm getting into character." And so he laughed. I don't know if he was making fun, but then he called Harry Crosby over and said, "What'd you say?" But yeah, there you go. Thank you for that question, and thank you all for being here so much. It means so much to all of us.
Thank you.
You are the best. I think Kane and Laura and Terry will agree that the Friday the 13th fans are the most wonderful,
The
most
best.
dedicated fans.
They are. Thank you, gang.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Fun stuff.